not just, I'm just, like I said, I'm just sharing with what we've done in the past. So we're going to talk about Jamboard, Flipgrid, Kami, and then these three all kind of combine together, but they're Google extensions to help for read alouds and things like that. So you've got Google Read and Write, Speak Aloud, or Read Aloud, and then the AT bar. We're also going to talk about Wakelet, Canva, Screencastify, Edpuzzle, and Pear Deck. So like I said, most of these tech tools, you've heard about them at one time or another. You've dealt with them. You've probably used a couple of them in your classroom at some point and stuff. So this is just a way to think about how you can use them with all students. I'm a firm believer technology is an even playing field. Technology is a leveler for things. And so even with, when I did self-contained special ed, and the students with more of that work-based learning and things, they were on code.org. So technology is one of those levelers. It's the thing that kind of brings everybody to an equal playing field. So let's kind of look at what we can do. And here's the thing to think about too with some of these tech tools. If it's good for one student, it's probably good for another student too. So my favorite one that we used a lot last year is Google Jamboard. And when you get the Google slide presentation, I've also put notes down in a lot of the speaker notes of different things, of just ideas and things as they would come to me on things. So be sure to check out those sections as well in the presentation. So when this first started out, it was, kind of new, it made me think of Padlet, a lot of it, especially now that Padlet's partly paid for. But there's tons of templates available for Jamboard now. Tons. So these are both linked to some. Here's some more templates here. But the one thing I like about the Jamboard, about Google Jamboard, one, if you're a Google school, the kids have access to it easily. Two, it allows for student engagement and interaction. Make sure students are given permission to edit or view depending on your need. I mean, if you just want them viewing what you're doing, leave it as view. If you want them adding to it, edit it. You leave them as editing thing. Because here's the thing, students are going to play. But before any tech tool too, and I should have said this, go over expectations with your kids. And I think this is something we've got to, this students didn't have you last year. They had you this year. Go back over it with it again. Lay down the law of what technology is going to look like this year. And then if you give them editing privileges, turn it off afterwards so that they can just view, because otherwise they'll go back in and edit things and move around and stuff. And if you've not seen what Jamboard looks like, we'll go back to this one that I'll link right here. And so this is set up right here, and then it is showing up because I put it in. We've got to change edit access. Let me change edit access on that one. We'll do that at the end where you can go in. It should have had it to where you could share it. So you'll have it to where you can view on that kind of stuff. So that's what that is. And it should have the little link right here and stuff. I'll get that changed as soon as we end the presentation. So then you'll be able to add questions and things as you need to on the end of that. And get back to you as you need to. Let's go back through. That way you can add in questions or takeaways and I can address those throughout. Sorry about that. Thought I had fixed that part, but it must not have saved. So there's a check-in template here. There's other templates here. One way I used Jamboard last year was, all the kids had a device. Well, we were in a setting with a small group where I didn't have a whiteboard all the time. So I would start a Jamboard for a math section for the kids and share it with the group that I had. So then they could see me working out the math problems in the small group setting. So they had access to the Jamboard, and we may start a meet, even though we were right there. But that way I'm not having to turn my computer around and show the device with each thing and things like that. So that's one way to look at doing it. Jamboard is also a way where after we did it, then I would share the link we were still using Google Classroom last year, but you could share it to any of your LMSs on that because it comes out as a link. So then that way they've got access to, see back for, how does she do that problem again? And they can see it worked out. So that's just one idea and ways to think about with that as well. So Kami is one of those that There's a paid for version, there's a free version, but there's also a 90-day trial for teachers to use. And that's something that can kind of help you if you're not sure that Cami is going to be something you're going to be able to use in your classroom. Do the 90-day trial. Start it when you start back to school. A lot of the tools are very good with the free version too. So, but it allows students to type on PDF assignments and edit as needed to complete various assignments. You've got to do explicit instruction, though, is needed for some students before beginning to use this tool. In other words, how to save it and how to turn it in. Otherwise, you're going to get a whole bunch of assignments that are blank. Because when you go to save and turn in a Cami assignment, there's the download version and then there's download with annotations. So you've got to go in and kind of make sure you tell the kids what that download the annotation part looks like. Okay. So that's just something to kind of think about with it, and that make sure because otherwise if they don't download with annotations, they didn't save it. Cami was also something just for teacher kind of thing, those testing forms. And it may be different next year when we transition, from sets into the new Power School thing. But the testing form, that we had to do for special accommodations, that was never included in INL lately, or in the sets lately. It let you type on it. So that's just something to think about with that. All of these are links for other ways of using Cami, but Cami is one of those that, we threw it at the kids last year and they were able to use it. So let's not quit using it this year just because we can go back to some paper and pencil. Cami is one of those, think about doing social studies with maps and science with different things like that, that you can put this in and have them able to edit on it without having to make a whole bunch of copies. I first used Cami probably about 4 years ago in a collaborative setting when we were marking up what we were reading, and that, how you get the scholastic news out and they're highlighting things and stuff like that, but you can only make so many copies of passages and things like that. Well, you can put a passage in Cami and they can go in and highlight what they need, draw the lines, edit the text, and finding the main idea and details and things like that. So it's a way of helping to do some of that hands-on type things too for the essential standards that you have. And there are ways for the younger grades too. Just because you teach K1, don't think, oh, I can't use this. That's where that link right there is. Some K1 Cami ideas. So, and here's if you're not a one-to-one school, or have one-to-one access, that's fine. Make it a center, a rotation, a thing to where you're still integrating some of this in there. Flipgrid. Flipgrid is something, and I've used for the last 5 years now. I love that they continually make updates with it and stuff, but Flipgrid is a tool that gives students voice. I've used it with students over the past, getting ready to transition to the next grade level. Flipgrid was a way for them to do an intro. So think about going to an IEP meeting and the students introducing themselves. They're not in the meeting, but they're introducing themselves. How great is that when you're transitioning from one school to another? Or when you're just one teacher to another, having the student share their strengths, having the student share what works for them. So that's just a way to kind of use Flipgrid with that. Set up the settings depending on age, kind of go over expectations with students ahead of time. You've got that age group of kids who think all these little stickers and comments and things are funny. Set the expectations first, okay? But also think about students with writing difficulties who or the ones who may not be able to present in front of the class. This is a way to still complete the assignment. So we're not having to, we've got to get out of the mindset of thinking, oh, I need to modify that assignment for somebody, when you can do an accommodation, or you can just do another way of doing it. I mean, just because the assignment was always done with presenting in front of the class, so you can use the rubric, doesn't mean it can't be done on a Flipgrid and still use the same rubric. So we've got to get the mindset of giving students a choice, and that allows them to also have a voice with it. And with writing difficulties, sometimes a kid, we're asking them to write stories and things like that, and they struggle with getting it out on paper. There's something with that processing from the brain down to the paper there's a block somewhere. What we can do is, but they tell great stories. So having them just talk about it on Flipgrid. We're going to look at something in voice typing with Google that helps with that too, but just giving another option for something and a way for them to turn in an assignment. And I think one of the sessions I listened to yesterday with Dr. Tucker, she talked about some of that in there and stuff. So Here's some more links for Flipgrid, just thinking with assessment and things like that. So hopefully these are giving you some ideas of ways to use these tools in your classroom. Google extensions for read aloud. Okay, this was something last year that I really was like, okay, I've got to work smarter, not harder. So students have access to the free version of Read and Write. Some students had the full version of paid for. But what we learned through it last year is Read and Write didn't read everything. So we still had to pull in the read aloud extension on some things to read it to the students because PDF documents and things like that. And then sometimes I still had to do a screencastify to read it. But show your students how to use these extensions to become more independent. You can't read everything aloud to everybody. You just can't. I mean, as a collaborative teacher, you have multiple students a lot of times, or even as a regular teacher, show these, if they've got the access to the technology, show them how to go through to have it read to them. And some teachers think, well, that becomes a crutch if they can't, y'all, they've got the technology in front of them. Let's show them how to use it. So, and then remind them to use it until it becomes a routine with them and stuff. So talk to your IT department about pushing out some to all students, because here's the thing, that read aloud, what helps one may help them all. Because what if a kid gets to that word that's just stuck, they're stuck on it. They can use that to help them read. That word. So Read and Write for Teachers is still a free way to sign up, but voice typing in Google Slides. So students with dyslexia have a struggle when it comes to that writing typing thing in there. So I really worked hard with a couple of students last year of using the voice typing tool for them. So that way they were able to speak what they needed to speak and tell their thoughts and tell their story, tell their ideas and things on there. But I wasn't having to write it all down for them first, because when they do the voice typing, a lot of times they were able to articulate it and it typed it for them. So getting them to get that option and start to use that and think through some of that. Read and Write, if they've got the full version, that's in there. So just help, kind of transition on that. If they're having to do a Google slide presentation, the voice typing works in the add the speaker notes. So getting the students to realize that they can do the voice typing down there, then copy it and paste it where they need to in the slide. Another way we did is using the commenting option, if it was a Google Doc, to help the students with writing. So moving away from, I can't do this, I can't write sentences to go with my spelling words, vocabulary words, I can't do this. Show me what you got. You get what you can on paper, and then I go share the document with me and comment in there of, well, have you thought about, look at it this way, this is the word, what you meant to say. Instead of just going in and fixing it for them, you're commenting, so they still have to go and look at the comment and make that connection and to change it. Okay, so just a way of thinking through that. Here's some more links, like I said, of different other extensions to think about. If you have more questions about this or need more help, reach out to me, send me an email. I'm just, like I said, just trying to share some things that we learned last year. Wakelet. This is one that I started off the year using it, and then things just got busy, so I plan on using it more next year. But Wakelet is one of those, like, I loved it. Once I started playing with it, I was like, okay, there are so many ways we can do with this. I almost think of it as HyperDocs meets lesson plans, but you can create the materials together. I love that it had links for documents to put in there. So think about parent newsletter, think about resource sheets for grade levels, collaborative projects. If you're a school in the PLC process, you can have a Wakelet for each of your essential standards and have teachers collaborating and putting things in. So then you're not having, and then the research and things are done, things are able to push out. And then you don't have all these emails of this, link for this for that. Everything's in one section. There are a lot of templates out now for Wakelet, so I've tried to put a couple of them on here so you can, pull from that, simple ways to use it. But Wakelet also then gives you a link to share out with parents. So that works great with any LMS thing that works out to send. You've always got that parent that said, I couldn't open that newsletter. Well, now it's a link to send out. And a lot of times that works with any kind of phone, any kind of thing that you may have on that. So that's an easier way to look at that. Screencastify. I would not have survived last year without Screencastify. And I think a lot of teachers can kind of say that, and we, see where we were at with things. Guided instruction videos. accommodations for an assignment. You get 5 minutes in the free version. I'd used Screencastify before for kids to use as projects and extensions, and just kind of talking through some of that. So these were those students who had already mastered on the Common Assessment, they'd mastered the skill. So we took the skill then and had them extend it to where they were teaching something about the skill. So maybe it was on theme and they had to find a story that matched it and tell that story. Or they took the theme and then wrote the story to go with it. They picked one of those, from a group of themes and then had to add a story to go with it and then narrated the story using Screencastify. There are different ways to do with that. Last year, we had to do a lot of guided instruction videos because I would have a couple of virtuals, when kids were virtual, it would be like, I don't know how to do this. And so it needed to be just another reteaching of the assignment and things to do on that. So that's something I still plan to continue this year. Even though we're moving away and we're able to do more and stuff, I just think that's a way of doing things with the kids. That's something that still is helpful. And then accommodations for an assignment. So the virtual kids, that may have missed out if we were doing like the first part of it. So on the Screencastify, you can do part of the assignment, because sometimes like you get the student in there in the resource room or in the collaborative classroom and they have 20 on the page. So a lot of times I don't do all of them with the students, but I'll be like, okay, you pick evens or odds if it's a math thing. And so, we may do the evens together and they have to do the odds by themselves. So that way we kind of, they're getting some guided support with it, but they're having to do some independent. Well, you can do that on the assignment. So you can, and then put that video out there. And so then if it's a homework assignment, the kids can watch it again at night if they need to. It helps the parents to understand what to do, but it was a way to push it out for those virtual students. And then sometimes the virtual students, were just like, I don't get it. So you just almost have to walk through the assignment. But I can see next year using it still some more for accommodations for assignment, whether it's reading aloud a science test of things, or social studies test, to doing some of those problems with them for homework assignment and being able to push it out. But it's also one of those that can be used for projects and extensions as well. So kind of think about, you can use Screencastify on both ends of the spectrum with kids. And these may not be all ideas you've thought about it and stuff, but sometimes you don't think through like, oh, wait a minute, this accommodation works. Because how many times have we read that same test over and over and over, when if we would just do a video of it and push it out, they can go and read it and stop and answer a question and read it again. And sometimes it's not it may be a paper pencil test, you get it on like that. So just different things like that, but using it as a tool to work smarter, not harder. Canva's one to use for extensions for classrooms. For that, there's a free upgrade for teachers, and that's something to think about too as you're going through it. There's a free upgrade, so you can use your school account to get free access on the Canva. Students use the Google email to sign in, but it's extension ideas for students who may finish early. So think about that kid who is always finished early and stuff, giving them a choice board, which we're going to look at the end, of something to create after what they just did, could be another, way of getting them to do, or maybe creating something about what they're reading. There's so many different templates and things you can use with the Canva on it. And all of these pictures are linked to different things and more ideas. Kahoot. And I know Kahoot is one of those things that we've been using constantly on things, but think about Kahoot in the blind Kahoot sense if you've not used that, and this kind of goes through that, about introducing new material. Think about Kahoot of having kids that finish early create one for the class as a review. And then I did not know this, but there's social emotional Kahoots that are already created. And I'm going to click on this link and kind of go there. But look, so these are already done. There's morning check-ins, managing stress and emotions. There's an afternoon, midday check-in, end of the day check-in. These are already created Kahoots that you can play. And I'll click and so you can see the questions. So it's got some that are slides, but then how are you feeling today? And as you're walking around the room, you can see how they're answering this, and they think they're playing a Kahoot when you're checking in to see how things are. So that's just a thing I thought was I was like, oh, and it's already made. So, 1 second. Okay, so that's click to link right there so you can remember those and stuff. So that's just something to think about with that. But you can have students create a Quizlet if they need to. They can create in some of the others. Look It, I think, is a new one that the kids are liking and starting to play with and stuff. So we've got to do some more research on that one. This is the update to some of the new 2021 updates for Kahoot. They're also doing like their big summer thing right now. So I feel like we're probably going to see more updates in the next couple of weeks too with Kahoot on that as well. So I know this is a tool like most of us use, but think about using it in different ways and stuff, especially with the social emotional learning. Like when I found these, I was like, oh, look, they're already made. Edpuzzle is one of those, another good for helping all students with pacing and differentiating instruction. And then informal in this, it has assessment built in and stuff. So these links right here are on the Schoology and Edpuzzle and integrating those and just some other ideas. Tons of videos are already created, or you can upload your own. I know some teachers that used it with a reading thing and then would have questions built in, but think about IEP goals. And that's how I'm going to look at it next year with how pushing out Edpuzzles on collecting data for IEP progress on some of those lessons and things like that and skills. So that's a way I'm going to look at it next year of integrating that more with it. So that kind of could be something you can think about, just a way of using that tool with your students. Pear Deck, this is one I've got to play with more. I've used it a little bit, but not enough, but it's one that I know we can do more with next year, like with the IEP goal progress and things like that. One thing I didn't know if any, that I learned is they do like this pear fair thing like twice a year, and then they'll post all the videos. So if you click on this right here, after AETC, this is some of what I'm looking at. They have all of the videos from the edition, the pear fair things right there. So you're able to go back and read through all of that. They've also got social emotional options and things on that. And then these are just some click-ons for some templates and add-ons and things like that. So Pear Deck's one of those that you can start to think of, okay, we've been doing this Google slide with vocabulary, and then maybe using Pear Deck to add in those supports that we need to with the teachers and stuff. So that's how I'm kind of going to look at it next year is, this teacher may push out this presentation for this. Well, then I can use Pear Deck to add in accommodations and extra support to help those students that just need it, because sometimes maybe it's my day to be in the math classroom, but this is what they're doing in reading. And this, I can, still provide support with that for reading. And one thing to think about with that is too, not everything we do, like all of these supports and things like this. And once you're doing it like that, it can help those students on RTI as well, the intervention for that and using that as a different dose and looking at that. So we've got to change the way we're thinking of, oh, this is good for just this group of students. No, it's good for everybody, honestly. So, and there's going to be a lot of kids that may just need that extra intervention and that extra tier of instruction. And so this could be a way, if you're already creating it, work with your collaborative team and in your PLCs to where you're able to help even more students and stuff. I mean, if it's already being created, let's share and remember to own everybody as our student. Okay, choice boards. We're going to spend some time on this. But let me go. Choice boards I did this. I've been doing these for about 5 years, but I think this is where we need to move towards next year when we are going away from like full digital and kind of still having that mix of digital and maybe paper pencil, but giving them tech tools when choice when completing assignments. You don't have to have this many. If you teach the lower grades, I would maybe only do 4, but make sure you've gone over and taught the tech tools first before you just throw this at them. Make sure the only tools in there that you've done are the ones that you can, that you've gone over and that kind of thing. But this gives them an option. So like we talked about with Flipgrid, maybe that student can't complete the Google slide presentation, but they can tell you all about it in Flipgrid. Or maybe they completed in Google Slides, but you're struggling to kind of know what they were thinking. We'll ask them to do a screencastify and share their thought process on the Google slide with it. Or they did it on the Canva, ask them to do a screencastify and share that with you. There's also, I think, a screen recording thing part in Flipgrid now too. So, because sometimes you get a piece of product from a student or something they've done and you're like, what were they thinking? And really, when they start to tell you about it, you're like, oh, okay. So giving them some of those options with that. These are a couple of other tech tools. The kids Animaker did not work well on Chromebooks, but they enjoyed it. So just something to think about with that, and as you're doing it, this is just a simple Google Doc. I left the template here. If you want to look at it, you can. It's not one of those. It's not anything grand, but if you want to click on that, it makes a copy, and then you can add in your own tools and create it in that. Casey Bell's post and her templates right here. But this is just something to think about to where you can still continue to give them that voice when you're completing things. Because maybe they had something they really enjoyed last year and something they were able to continue with on that. And so this will help that to continue for that. So just kind of looking at the choice boards and kind of giving that and thinking that choice is not, it's voice. It's not giving them, oh, there's way too many options for things or that kind of stuff, but it's giving them something to look at and, hey, I can work with this. Okay, we're not going to close just yet. We're going to come back to this. So I'm going to hang on a second and fix this Jamboard. Come on. All right. I don't want that. I want it to edit. Okay, so now if you've got the presentation, you should be able to, let's go back over to here. And we'll click on this. Okay, so now you can look back at this. And if you have a question still or a takeaway on it, you can drop in a sticky note right here and pop it in, and we can look at it in the end. I'm going to go over a couple of the links, but this is a way just to put it in there. Maybe you've got something, oh, I really enjoyed that. If you want to leave a takeaway, that's great on that. So this is how you use Jamboard. You can set a background and stuff if you want to on it. You can also add your own images. So that's just one way within the Jamboard process. So that's set up to where you are able to edit on that. Head back to the presentation real quick. We're going to come back on this at the end. There's a couple of the links I wanted to highlight. Okay, so back on Jamboard, now that we've got this set, these templates are amazing. So I think this is the one. Like, I wish I had found this earlier this year. Look at all these templates that are already made for Jamboard activities. So you've got the lower levels, you've got handwriting, the magnetic letters to being able to build. Think about small groups and with the letters and the science of reading and things and pulling this out. So I'm excited about this one. And then you've got base 10 blocks, digital option. There's the morning meeting calendar, place value grids, and all these templates are made. I think most of them are free. I don't know. I haven't clicked on every single link, but you can take these and make copies when you get into it. If you go up here, you can make a copy of the Jamboard when you do it. So then you can edit and things. And I love that this is added now. The C version history, that's a new update. And so that helps you to see like if a student has gone and changed something. Because, we all know that students are going to do that. Numerical equations, how to get that set up. So there's a lot of this with small groups that I can see needing to take some more time with this and looking at all of that. So I'm kind of excited about this link right here myself. So that's what that one is. I just want to kind of highlight a few of them. So check on a couple of those for sure. On the CAMI, let's look at the K1 ideas real quick. And here's the thing, on the K1, I put that on there, but if you've got a student and you're in that classroom and they're on that K1 level, this is good for you too. Okay. So don't think that, oh, okay, one, I don't need to look at it, but I teach middle school students that are self-contained. No, these may be some, ideas to kind of look at too and just to think through it. So there's just some good ideas on that. I loved the picture and the visuals that it has on there. It kind of makes you kind of spark, oh, that I can do that and I can do that on that. And here's the thing to think about too on the Jamboard link that you've got right here. I'm one of those that if you say, or if you want to email me later and say, hey, I've got this student who needs help with this, I may already have another tool, somewhere that's got actually, things with that and stuff. I try to post a lot of what I have on that Live Binder link, which at the beginning, so feel free to check that out and stuff. I didn't want to throw a whole bunch of tools at you today with this because I wanted you to have stuff and be able to think, okay, I can use this for this and this for that. Because I know what it's like. Sometimes you sit in those sessions and you've had all these tools thrown at you, but you have no idea how you're going to use them when you get in your classroom. So these are something just to think about. And as you have questions and answer, I will update in the conference note and the speaker notes down at the bottom, different answers to things or change it, add it into like this certain slide. So that way you'll be able to see the answers that people may, for questions people are asking to you. Looking at Flipgrid and stuff, this is just, continue to remember on that. And there's so many different updates for this one, but the student voice option is just key right now. Because I think some students actually did well using the technology on that. The voice typing, we hit all of these. Oh, one thing on the read and write, if you're not already doing that for teachers, you've got to sign this part up first before you download the extension, because otherwise it won't sync your account, and that's not good. So you got to make sure to do that so it'll sync the account up and everything, okay? Wakelet, let's show a few templates on Wakelet. It's always scary clicking on links because you don't know if they're ever going to pay attention some days. Look at all these templates now that they've got started. So resource list, attendance question, Clubhouse. So this is what I mean by like, these are the things I try to find links of templates and things so you can, work smarter, not harder, and take this tool that you can integrate and go, okay, well, here's templates for lesson plans and newsletters and entry and exit tickets, icebreakers, and things like that already created, and you can make your own copies with that. So that way you're able to take the tool and be able to use it, because let's face it, we all don't have time to create everything, even though we want to. Screencastify, I hope that I've given you enough ideas with that one, with accommodations and just the ways to look at it on that, because there's just so many different things. Canva. So we went through those different things. This one I thought was interesting. They have a class schedule maker. So think about those students who are struggling to stay online or stay together. You can put what they need to get done on all of this. Slides Mania also has an option for one of these on there too. So they're that student who's struggling to, go ahead and put that one in. For that student who's struggling to stay organized, there's a template in here. Let's go up here. So they've got some to-do lists and things, the interactive choice boards. There's those options on here and these easily integrate into Google Slides or PowerPoint, whichever one you may be using. So Slides Mania is something to check out, and I will add that in to put that right here into the notes. You can kind of see that and have that as another option as well. So that's just something to think about on when you're looking at some of those presentations and stuff. And those kids that maybe need help of, this is a bunch of work and stuff, so you give them a Monday to-do list, a Tuesday, and things like that. But that, you could do that on the class schedule with Canva. You can use it in Slides Mania. There's a couple of different ways to look at it for that. We've looked at the Kahoot links and the Edpuzzle, Pear Deck, choice boards. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of end, and we're finishing early. It's So, but if there's questions and stuff, I'll look back at the Jamboard again. Just, you can't pour from an empty cup. We've all gone through a lot this year, and compassion fatigue is real. So please make sure that you're taking care of yourself this summer and stuff. I loved this one right here. Almost everything will work again if you unplug it for a few minutes, including you. So I'm the type, I understand why, I love technology. That's one of those that I cannot, like AETC energizes me for things on that and stuff. And, don't let it overwhelm you on things and stuff that you can do on that as well. So that's just something to kind of think about and stuff. And I'm going to stop sharing for a second and hop over to the Jamboard in the chat and see if we have any questions. Okay, so I'm going to, okay, got it. Okay, so I'm just going to kind of go back through. We'll hit that in a second right here. So this is that live binder link that I was talking about. So if you click on that, I've tried to post all of my presentations on there. I'm not one of these that's kind of like, oh, I don't, keep it to myself. I share. So you're welcome to look in that and stuff. I'm so glad you joined this session this week. Like I said, we've got questions and takeaways. Here's a link to share those on the Jamboard, and I'll show you that part again. My goal in my heart, because I am a teacher too, is not to have wasted your time. So if you don't have something that you can take back at the end of this session, even if you're watching on demand later, email me. Say, hey, I really needed help with this student. Do you have a tech tool for that? That's how we're in this together. We've got to reach out to other teachers and stuff. And so feel free to reach out. We'll find you something. Okay, we'll look at what I've got. If I don't, I will do some research on it. The presentation's available. It will be on the live binder later, but it's also available right here. So that way you've got the interactive part of it as well. Because I wanted you to have the links and stuff. I tried to find and do some of the research ahead of time so you're not having to look for all that stuff, and you can actually start to think, okay, these are a certain amount of tools. And so we kind of started at the beginning of just looking at technology. I feel like we all felt like either we went from Woody to Buzz last year on this. We started off the year going, oh, look, technology everywhere. And then by about October, this was the face when we were talking about technology. Even those that are techie still struggled with some of this everyday technology stuff at times. So that's just something, but we've got to, look at the connection here. Technology is a tool, and that's where I want, I've had to shift my mindset even from throwing a whole bunch of tech tools out there to you to going, okay, how can you actually use those in the classroom? So, because enabling learning everywhere is the goal. And let's go, last year, SAMR, we've talked about N7. We jumped from here for a lot of teachers to here last year, which is great. We had to live in this world because of what we were having to do. But let's don't go backwards so fast that we don't still spend time over here. Let's make sure we're still having some time in this section, because we've got kids that are going to do this. We've got kids that can spend the time in that redefinition, that modification. They're the ones that are going to create the apps. They're the ones that are going to design the things that are going to make life easier one day. So let's make sure that we're still hitting some of those when we have time with that and stuff. And I know we may not be like all one-to-one. You may not have it, but you can still have it as a center or a rotation, a small group rotation, to where they may see you for a small group, and then they have time to work on something in the technology aspect. And so hopefully some of these tools can help you to kind of organize and help with them as well. We had a question on Jamboard, so I want to hop over to that really quick. You can set up, what I did is we had the choice board. It was an enrichment time. And so we had the choice board set up for the get-go. And so what you could do is teach the tech tools ahead of time is what I would do. I would start off maybe September. I wouldn't throw out everything in August unless you've got some older kids. Start maybe in September, going over some of the tech tools, and then have that based out for the assignment, and just have a set choice board where they know, that they have an option to use that. Work, if you're a collaborative teacher, work with your gen ed teacher to go, hey, look, they need to use the Flipgrid for this instead of this. We need an alternative assignment for something. Let's look at it. Let's talk about it. Not alternative, an alternative way of doing it. That's where we've got to turn out the mindset of, oh, well, so-and-so can't do it. We need to change the assignment. Well, yeah, they can, but it's how you're asking them to, assess, how you're wanting it assessed. We've got to turn, not everything has to be done a certain way. Not every presentation has to be done in front of the class, because think about that student who has, not every autistic student is great with getting in front of the class, but they can do it for you in a Flipgrid. So, kind of pick your battles on that. So hopefully that answered your question. If you still need more help with it later, let me know. But I would, start with an easy assignment and kind of introduce it and work your way through with it. But I teach the tech tools first, go over them first. So maybe have a Flipgrid assignment where everybody does an introduction at the beginning of the year, and you start building community. Then maybe do something with Screencastify where you're illustrating how to do it, or something to where they're doing an easy assignment with each tech tool, and then adding that to your class choice board. And so with the template, you can easily make your own copy and start off with maybe two choices. And then maybe after a couple of months, you add another, 4 on there. I was going to show you on the live binder real quick. If you're sitting there and you're like, I still needed more tech tools. If you go up to this one right here and click on this link to this presentation, or you can look on some of these in the Unpacking the Tech Toolbox. There are tons more tech tools and things on that to look at with it and stuff. So this one I kind of wanted to concentrate more on actually how to use some of the tools, but if you're wanting to play with a bunch and want some new tech tools, the links and stuff are there for you to do with that, okay? So do we have any more questions? I know we're finishing up a little bit early. I'll leave the Jamboard open. If you're watching this on demand, know that the Jamboard, I'm going to leave it to where you can keep editing on that, and I'll keep a check on that for other questions and things. So that way you're, we're not, I'm still able to answer them and kind of add to that and stuff. So like I said, please reach out if you have questions, if you're not sure about something, if you need help with something, if you're still going, wait a minute, I need another, I still needed help with this for another student and stuff, reach out. Like I said, we're in this together. And so I'm available to help as I can and stuff. I hope y'all have a wonderful AETC conference and continue to learn amazing things and stuff. So reach out via Twitter, reach out via email. I don't see any more questions on the things, and just have a good summer. We have been through so much this year as teachers and stuff. So enjoy your time. Enjoy. Mobile's a great place to visit and a lot of fun at the AETC. So thanks everybody for listening and for coming.